Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach, and with the 2024 NFL Draft officially coming to an end, and with me being a New England Patriots fan, I just wanted to sit down and talk about my thoughts and reactions to the Patriots draft this year, plus talk about some of the offseason moves they made. Starting off with the draft, on the first round, the New England Patriots selected quarterback Drake May out of North Carolina. I do like this pick for the Patriots. If they were going to stay and pick a quarterback, I'm glad that Drake May is the one that fell to them. Actually, kind of glad they weren't able to trade back, because my thought was maybe they trade back with the Vikings, get 2 first-round picks, and go get their quarterback later in the draft. But since 12 of them went in the first 6 picks, I'm a little glad that they stayed where they were and got their guy. I'm also glad that Drake May was that guy. He's arguably the second best quarterback in this draft class. Very good arm talent, and I think that if he can develop a little bit behind Jacoby Brissett for at least part of this season, fix some of the fundamental issues he's had and some of the footwork issues he had in college, I think he's going to be a very good quarterback in the NFL. Then in the second round, the New England Patriots actually wound up trading back from 34 to 37 and drafting wide receiver Jalen Polk out of Washington. This is a move that I was a little surprised by. I thought that the Patriots would go offensive tackle in the second round. I thought that the tackle class, as talented as it was less deep than the wide receiver class, and you could have gotten still a very good wide receiver in the third round. They didn't go offensive tackle. I thought they were going to go for Kingsley Samaitia out of BYU. That's the guy I was like, man, I really hope they can get this guy. They wound up not picking him. I almost thought he would make it to the third round until the Chiefs picked him at 61. But they wound up going with wide receiver Jalen Polk out of Washington with the 37th overall pick. This is a pick I was a little perplexed by it when they first picked him. Then I gave it, was able to give some thought, like look into him a little bit more. Jalen Polk, though he's not, he's a good size guy. He's roughly 6 feet tall, close to 200 pounds, so good size. Decent speed. He's not, a burner, going to run by everybody, but he's got good enough speed, decent route runner, and he's very good at catching the football. One of the very important aspects of being a wide receiver is catching the ball. It does no good if you can get open if you can't catch the ball. So Jalen Polk is very, very good at catching the ball, so I'm not too upset with this pick. It's just, I thought they could have gotten a little more value if they had waited till the third round to get a receiver, but I'm still very excited to see what Jalen Polk can do when put into this offense. In the third round, they did select an offensive tackle. They went offensive tackle Caden Wallace out of Penn State. Another pick that I was a little surprised by at the time, particularly because Caden Wallace is a right tackle, and I feel like the Patriots' biggest need is more so at left tackle. But maybe he can develop, and they'll be able to switch him from right to left. Because as of right now, the New England Patriots have a whole bunch of right tackles. You've got 3 or 4 players that can play right tackle, but not a whole lot of guys that can that can play on the left. In free agency, they did sign an offensive tackle, Chukwuma Okafor, who has kind of played back and forth between right and left. So I don't know if the plan is to put Okafor at left tackle for now and let Caden Wallace develop. But Caden Wallace is a player that got a lot of starts in college, played in the Big Ten, so he played against NFL caliber defenders. He, in his college career, played against Aiden Hutchinson and didn't give up a sack. He only gave up 1 sack this past season. So he's a very talented offensive tackle. But I'm interested to see if he can switch from the right side to the left side, if that is the Patriots' idea for him. Moving on to the fourth round, the New England Patriots drafted offensive guard Layden Robinson out of Texas A&M. So another offensive guard. They went and they drafted 2 last year. They drafted Mafi and City Sal last year, both of whom got some playing time. City Sal, in my opinion, looked better than Mafi did. And they also 2 years ago drafted Cole Strange in the first round, but Cole Strange has not really panned out. I think, how they wanted him to. He doesn't really have like the strength and technique at guard. He's come along a little bit, but then he got an injury last year. So maybe this is just kind of an insurance policy to kind of just add some depth to that position. Also in free agency, they did sign offensive guard Nick Leverett, but he's a little up there in age, so adding some youth to this offensive line is never a bad thing. And Layden Robinson is a very good run blocker, which is nice. Interesting to see how he develops as a pass blocker if he gets a lot of playing time. He's a big body guard, very good in the run game. Hopefully can develop in the pass game. And I'm always a fan of teams adding to the offensive line. Also in the 4th round, the New England Patriots went with wide receiver Javon Baker out of Central Florida. This is a player that I was surprised was still there in the 4th round. I thought going earlier in the draft process, the Patriots may have been able to get him in the 3rd round. I'm very excited they were able to get him in the 4th round. This player is a very explosive wide receiver. Didn't run the fastest time in the 40, but he appears to play a lot faster than he ran in drills. Very good wide receiver, can be a very big playmaker, and I think could develop into a very good wide receiver. And in a few years, we could have a very good wide receiving core in New England of Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, and Demario Douglas. And Javon Baker falling down to the 4th round, maybe it puts a little bit of a chip on his shoulder and makes him play just that little bit harder to prove, hey, I should have been picked earlier than this. So it's a very good pick that I like, especially since going into this draft. I was like, Patriots need a quarterback, they need wide receiver, and they need offensive tackle. And then maybe some more O-line depth. Well, they addressed a lot of offensive concerns in the first 4 rounds of this draft. Then in the 6th round, the New England Patriots selected defensive back Marcellus Dial out of South Carolina. The only defensive player they picked in this entire draft. Marcellus is, I think, a player that they really needed another big-bodied corner. So they got Christian Gonzalez last year, who unfortunately got injured. And then they have Jonathan Jones and Marcus Jones out there, but they're more slot-type corners. They're a little smaller. They're both around 5'9". So I think both of them work better as slots. They do inside. So getting Marcel Dial allows them to get another big-bodied receiver or big-bodied corner to put on the opposite side of Christian Gonzalez, or he can play special teams. They also still have Alex Austin on their roster, who's a big-bodied corner for them. So I'm very optimistic about their corner group, and I do like this pick because I do think that corner was not necessarily a position of need for them, but a position they could have added more depth to, and they did it with Marcel Dial. Also in the 6th round, the Patriots selected quarterback Joe Milton out of Tennessee. This is a pick that I was surprised by, but I'm not too upset with it. I do like the idea of them going and getting another young quarterback who has just tremendous arm talent. If nothing else, he has the strongest arm in this draft class. One of the strongest arms going into the NFL. If nothing else, Joe Milton is a guy that they can either see how he develops. I don't know if he'll make the active roster this year. He might wind up being a practice squad guy, and they do play against quarterbacks like Josh Allen, who has a very big arm. So Joe Milton could kind of be that Josh Allen type player that is the scout Josh Allen on the practice squad, and maybe he can develop into a polished passer. Because Joe Milton, his issue is He's not the most accurate quarterback in the world, even with his strong, but he does have a very strong arm. So there is a temptation to see if you can develop that. And I'm very interested to see what Joe Milton can develop into. And then in the 7th round, they picked tight end Jaheim Bell out of Florida State. So another position that I don't think they necessarily needed to address the tight end position. I do like the added depth because in free agents or in the offseason they did re-sign Hunter Henry, who is a very well-rounded tight end in the passing game and the receiving game. They also signed tight end Austin Hooper, who has kind of been more of a blocker over the past few seasons. So now you bring in Jaheim Bell, who is less polished on the blocking aspect of being a tight end, but very polished, very good receiver who you can kind of move around away from just the traditional tight end spot. You can have him out of the backfield. You can play him as kind of that H-back position. You can maybe line him up in the slot a little bit. Just move him around the offense, especially in passing situations. So I do like this pick of Jaheim Bell as well. So just wrapping up my thoughts on the Patriots draft, I like that they went very offensive heavy. They identified the biggest weakness on their team from last year, that was offense, and they addressed it the best they could in the draft. If anything, I'm just very surprised they just didn't. The only position I thought maybe they could have drafted was maybe a running back to pair with Ramondre Stevenson. So now kind of talk about some of the offseason signings. Speaking of running backs, they did sign running back Antonio Gibson, who is a very good receiving back to pair with Ramondre Stevenson. Another guy that he's going to catch a lot of passes, kind of. They've been looking for a guy to fill that James White role for the past few years, and I think they got it in Antonio Gibson. They do still have Kevin Harris, who's a big-bodied guy that can, kind of be that power back role if Ramondre gets injured. So, really do like the signing of Antonio Gibson. Another guy that I really like they signed, I mentioned Jacoby Brissett. Very good mentor, be a very good mentor, can start this season off and kind of be the starter as Drake May develops. They also, in the offseason, signed linebacker Sione Takitaki. It's a very good coverage linebacker, which I like because they've had Jawan Bentley for the past few years, who is a very good run-stuffing linebacker. And now they have in Takitaki a good coverage linebacker they can pair with him. They signed also defensive lineman Armin Watts. Defensive line was a position that they've needed some depth on, especially since they did release Lawrence Guy at the beginning of the offseason. So Armin Watts can be that depth piece and kind of fill that Lawrence Guy role. I mentioned their signing of Nick Leverett. And the other biggest signing they did was wide receiver KJ Osborne. So going into the season, I think KJ Osborne is projected to possibly be their number one. So the receiving core, as it stands, KJ Osborne, Kendrick Bourne, who they re-signed. Demario Douglas could be their slot guy. And you have your two rookies in Jalen Polk and Javon Baker. So those are 5 guys that I think could, 5 of their receivers going into this season. They did re-sign Jalen Reagor at wide receiver, but now I don't really see a big need to keep him. I also don't really see a need for them to keep Juju Smith-Schuster or Tyquan Thornton anymore, because they do have guys that can fill those roles on the offense. I'll just talk about guys that the Patriots re-signed in the offseason that I'm a big fan of. I think the most important re-signing they did was offensive tackle Michael Wenu, who I think is going to be their starting right tackle. It's their best offensive lineman they have. So that's a very good keep for them, for their offense. Also, Obviously, talked about how they re-signed Kendrick Bourne and Hunter Henry, two big pieces to the offense. On defense, very importantly, they re-signed Josh Uche and Anthony Jennings. I was hoping that they would re-sign at least one of them. I'm very glad they kept both of them. That's some very big pass rush depth for them. And just some other depth pieces. They re-signed Tyron Wheatley on offensive tackle. Not really a starting caliber offensive tackle, but when he needs to play, he hasn't played bad when he's needed to play. So he's a very good depth piece. I'm very optimistic about the upcoming season. A lot of these guys, after initially they got signed, like KJ Osborne, I was like a little bit not optimistic, thinking, oh, they have another number 2 wide receiver. But now that you can pair him with some of these young guys, and you can pair some of the other guys they signed with the young guys that they drafted, I am very optimistic of what they can do. I'm very much looking forward to this season and the next few seasons to see what comes in their future. Yes, I'm just very optimistic for the for the future of the New England Patriots. That's, I know as a Patriots fan, I've had it good for the past 20-something years. So, I'm not in any room to complain. But I do like the moves the New England Patriots have made this offseason, the moves they made in the draft. And I'm very much looking forward to see what happens with this team. Let me know what you guys think of the draft, just in general, or the New England Patriots draft. What do you guys think in the comments? Let me know how you're feeling about this upcoming season, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Till next time.